That's true. That's true. It's hard to balance it out, isn't it? Want to make reading, but we like to go off in our different topics.
Well, it's association in that regard, really, isn't it?
Yeah, that's true. Whoops. Okay. So, where are we now? Okay, good. We're on YouTube, folks, and I'll find the song for tonight. I'm going through the songbook, and
Gora,
yes,
you're a encyclopedia on verses, and remember, my devotees enliven one another, discussing topics.
Machita madgata prana bodayantas parasparam katayantas chamang nityam nityayukta upasate. The thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me, and they enliven one another. Conversing about, yeah, yes.
So I think many times we're digesting, Srila Prabhupada's writings, and so related to that topic, I think we give our kind of personal, maybe no views, because but our experiences with it, our realizations, I think. So
Right.
I don't think we deviate that much. I mean, if you listen to Acyutananda Prabhu and his personal association with pure devotees. Anyhow, you got the verse. Go ahead.
Okay.
You got the song.
Siddhi Lalasa, also from Gita Mala, Srila Thakur. And from the way I remember learning it from Acyutananda Prabhu, it goes something like this. Kabe Gauravane Suraduni Tate Haradhe Ha Krishna Bole Kandiya Bedabo Deho Sukha Chadi Nanalata Tarutale Shwapache Grahite Majia Kaibo Pibo Saraswati Jalam Puline Gadagadi Dibo Kori Krishna Kolahala Dama Bashi Jane Pranati Koriya Magyo Kriparalesham Vaishnavacharana Renugoyamaki Dorihava Dutavesham Goda Braja Jane Vedanade Ki Bohoye Bovarajabasi Dhammera Swarupa Spuribe Nayane Hoibo Radhara Dasi. You want to start with the translation, Krishna Chandra Prabhu?
Jai. Moment.
And then Nanda Patni, and then I guess back to me, since Nirhari can't read while driving.
When, oh when, will I wander here and there, weeping under the shade of the trees and creepers along the banks of the celestial Ganges River in Navadvip? I will cry out, O Radhe, O Krishna, and I will completely forget all about all the so-called pleasures of this material body.
When will I be able to live so simply by begging some food from the homes of the untouchables who live here and there? I'll drink the water of the Saraswati, and in ecstasy I'll roll to and fro on the banks of the river, raising a loud uproar of Krishna, Krishna.
When will I bow down to all the inhabitants of the holy land of Navadvip and receive a bit of their causeless mercy? I will smear the dust of the Vaishnav's lotus feet all over my body, and I will wear the dress of a mad, wandering mendicant. Do we have anyone else joining us yet? No, not really. You want to read the last one, Krishna Chandra?
Jai. When I factually observe that the transcendental lane of Navadvip is not different from Sri Vrajabhumi, then I shall be transformed into a Vrajavasi also. Then I will see the true form of the transcendental realm opened up before my very eyes, and I will thus become one of the maidservants of Srimati Radharani.
Wow. Very elevated song.
Mm-hmm.
Nirhari Prabhu, were you able to hear it?
Seems like he's
Can't
in
tell.
transit.
I think
Maybe busy.
he's entranced behind the steering wheel. Yeah, he's muted himself because he's driving. But
Mhm.
no, Nanda Patni, what is there anything stand out for you, like jump out for you with this song? Any lines?
Well, yeah, I mean, I suppose on a very personal, subjective level, I'm very interested in entering a bit more into Gora Leela, because in the last sort of 6 months, I've been hugely involved in Vraj Leela, you know, listening to certain people and reading in that way. So I suppose, you know, this phenomenon that is so clearly spoken about when devotees are immersed in Gora Leela, when they're in Navadvip, when they're in Mayapur, etc., and yet they very clearly begin to experience the kind of Vraj Leela, if you will, through that vehicle, as it were.
The vehicle of Navadvip Leela?
Yeah. So, you know, for the fourth line there, the fourth verse, when I've actually observed that the transcendental land, there's a typo, of Navadvip is not different from Sri Vraj Bhumi, then I shall be transformed into a Vrajvasi. I mean, you know, it's such an extraordinary phenomenon, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
You know, through the whole of Gora Leela, the whole of, you know, Gora Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's associates and the whole Gora Leela phenomenon. It's just a very extraordinary thing, the way it kind of, for want of a better word, pans out. Can't think of another word.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that really kind of rings out in this song for me personally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very relevant to you because of your readings.
Mm-hmm.
How about you, Krishna Chandra? Anything stand out for you?
Well, I would say something. First of all, I believe it's beyond my pay grade, as Siddhanta Prabhu would say, and also I think it was covered previously. Many good points. Also, just what else popped out at me was just when will I bow down to all the inhabitants of Navadvip? And it's like, how can I cultivate that level of humility and you know, that taste to really see everyone in the Dhams as, you know, ones that I should you know, offer my dandavats to, and in that mood. So it's a lot to think about, and have to, you know, if you think of the Shikshastakam, it's which I'm sorry, I should know this. I'm going to look this up real quick if you don't mind.
What is it?
That I think it's being you know, so humble about the being a straw on the street. You know?
Lower than a straw on the street, or taller than a tree.
I should know these verses much better than I do.
One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw on the street, more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, ready to offer all respects to others. In such a state of mind, one can constantly chant the holy name of the Lord. Bhaktivinoda Thakur said we should be wearing that verse around our neck, like a necklace.
There's a beautiful example I was listening to last night, talking about Rupa and Sanatan Goswami, how it was very interesting, actually. I was listening to Mahanidi Prabhu, and he was saying how, when they worked under the Nawab in Bengal, they are actually dressed in this really pucker way, in sort of silk kind of kurtas and gold buttons, and they were, and they came from wealthy families anyway.
Right.
And then, you get this amazing, this is where the Trinadapi thing comes in, because when they finally get themselves to Vrindavan, they're just in kopins and a little rag, for the rest of their time. And a kamandalu, isn't it? The pot?
Yes.
Yeah.
Kamandalu.
So, if you think of it like that, I think it's an amazing illustration of the humility on a kind of a practical level like that. They were very involved in society. And then
amazing transformation. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, then they met Lord Chaitanya. And well, it's all Leela, isn't it? It's all yeah.
But
anyway,
as I'm hearing both of you speaking, I'm being reminded that if I'm cultivating humility and I'm really working on my own purification and my relationship with Krishna, then do I even have time or focus to be critical of others about anything? I mean, I justify because I'm very disturbed by how many people are dying and getting sick because of what's being rolled out, by big pharma, governments, etc. But that can derail one's own devotional service. At least I've seen with myself. I can become so much concerned about, so many of the anomalies that are going on that it can actually be a detriment to one's own.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, I just read the 6th canto in some detail. And I mean, Prabhupada says over and over and over and over again about even when a Vaishnava, falls down or discredits himself or whatever, although we use discernment, in his purports, he says so many times that Vaishnava is just finishing up, like we all are. Unfinished business in the material world and having lots of karma burnt up, and they may go on the slippery slope, but Krishna actually considers them very, very dear. And so I think that's just such a great way to really get it in context and deflect any sense of sort of material criticism that one might have on the material plane of someone and their anartas. We know that plenty of things have gone wrong and people have really fallen off the perch and done naughty things and all the rest of it, including me. And, but there's so much information in the Ajamil story, which allows one through that really, to me anyway, through that sort of thorough sense of knowledge, really about what a Vaishnava's position is eternally and how very dear they are to Krishna because they've been actually picked up by pure devotees. And so in a way, we just do not have a right to go around thinking, oh, that person's absolutely rubbish, and all of that kind of thing. Anyway. I bring it up because I just found the purports there's one particular volume which the whole volume appears to speak about this subject. Oh yeah, definitely. Really surprised me.
The first of the 10 offenses to mind. What stood out for me in this song was the second verse. When will I be able to live so simply by begging some from the homes of the untouchables who live here and there? So that reminds me of one time when I was visiting Vrindavan and I saw the local sadhus doing this madhukari, which I understand that Prabhupada also did. It means like a bee, right? Going from flower to flower. These sannyasis, sadhus, they were going from house to house to get a chapati. Actually, I'm sorry for bringing it down to the mundane level, but I just got a vision of trick or treat Halloween, how it's a perverted reflection.
Oh.
Kids going door to door, to get an apple or
those children are horribly lusty.
yeah, given
God
all
bless
this
them.
terrible stuff to rot out your teeth. But the mood is there, right?
What a great example, Cora.
It's
a perverted reflection of Maruk.
Yeah.
Pratibimba Abbas.
No comment.
No, but no, what I was getting from this second verse specifically, that bubble just popped in my brain. What I was trying to say is that in this city lalasa mood that Bhaktivinoda Thakur is describing, he's not considering whether that person is a touchable or an untouchable. I mean, an untouchable could be a leper, I guess, right? An untouchable.
They sort of threw all sorts of caste categories into that. Right. Tribal peoples and but you're right. I mean, lepers would definitely, be in there.
I was just thinking how in context of today, those who have been vaxxed consider those who have not been vaxxed untouchables, and those who have not been vaxxed consider those who are vaxxed like, I don't want to be near your viral shedding. But I'm just saying, here in Bhaktivinoda Thakur's mentality, he's not considering vaxxed, unvaxxed, untouchable.
It's Brahmani Gavihastani, that verse.
Yeah.
One who sees with equal vision, the Brahman, Krishna doesn't actually say untouchable in that verse, but right. He says,
he says dog eater.
Yeah, he says Chandala.
Yeah, the dog eater. Yeah, that's it.
Swapacha. Yeah.
You're on this very high platform of seeing everything. Well, I guess it's Uttamaradhikari, isn't it, where you're seeing everyone in their relationship to Krishna.
Yeah. And the Uttama Adhikari is beyond the propensity to criticize others. But then Prabhupada said, the Uttama Adhikari, in order to preach, he has to come down to the Madhyam platform, and then he can actually preach. Because we cannot pretend to be Uttama Adhikaris. I'm still trying to be a good Kanishta Adhikari myself. Okay, so without further ado, adieu. Dieu means God in French. Dieu. So adieu. With God, I guess. I'm not sure what adieu translated into French. Okay, so where are we here? Bhagavad Gita.
Dandavat Shikarani.
Okay. Oh, Shikarani's arrived.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Shikarani. This Bhagavad Gita class was specifically organized just for Shikarani Mataji. So I'm glad that she can come and attend. She's a very busy girl. You have many people that you're responsible for, aren't you, Shikarani? You're like an administrator?
Yeah.
Yeah. How many people are accountable to you?
I never counted.
Wow, it's that many. All right. So why don't we start with you, Shikarani, since all of us have read something already. So why don't you start from where we left off last time?
Yeah, sure. 1 second. Oh, all the pictures are just static. 1 second. I don't know what's happening.
Should we read in the meantime?
Yeah, you can read. I'm just fixing this.
Nandapati?
Yeah, it's fine now.
You got it?
Yeah, yes. Okay. But you are not sharing the screen.
Oh, excuse me. I thought I
It
was.
is. It
It
is.
looks like it is shared.
It is
Yeah,
shared. Yeah.
In
Have you got it, Sikarani? Have you got the screen?
I can on the screen. I see everyone's faces.
Oh,
Prabhu, are you sharing the screen?
Yes, I am. I'm going to read because you're having all kinds of technical difficulties. The
I
Lord-
see you eating. Now I can see the screen. Yeah.
you
The
have it?
Lord, yeah, now I can see. Can you?
Your voice is going in and out. It's not a very good connection.
What about now?
That's
Okay,
better.
good.
Okay. Yeah, it is telling my internet connection is unstable. Okay. The Lord descends to this mortal world to show his pastimes in Vrindavana, which are full of happiness. When Lord Sri Krishna was in Vrindavana, his activities with his cowherd boyfriends, with his damsel friends, with the inhabitants of Vrindavana, and with the cows were full of happiness. The total population of Vrindavana knew nothing but Krishna. But Lord Krishna even discouraged his father Nanda Maharaja from worshipping the demigod Indra because he wanted to establish the fact that people need not worship any demigod. They need only worship the Supreme Lord because their ultimate goal is to return to his abode. The abode of Lord Sri Krishna is described in the Bhagavad Gita, 15th chapter, 6th verse. Na tad bhashyate shuryo na shashanko na pavakah yad gatva na nirvatante tad dharma parmam mam. That abode of mine is not illuminated by the sun or moon, nor by electricity. And anyone who reaches it never comes back to this material world.
I
This
just,
verse.
I just like, no, that's enough. I just wanted to make a little comment here that I was hearing Giriraj Maharaj giving a talk on the teachings of Lord Chaitanya earlier. This is in regards to the point there that Lord Krishna was telling the inhabitants of Vrindavan they need not worship any other demigod during the Govardhan Leela. And Giriraj Maharaj was mentioning that when he was preaching in South India some years ago, he was preaching against demigod worship. And he said that the people, a lot of the people were Mayavadis, and they were not happy with him. They were saying that, he should not speak like this. He should not speak against the worship of the demigods, because they were like so deeply entrenched in demigod worship. It was difficult for them to hear that you should not worship the demigods. So anyway, that thought just came into my mind. Nandapatni, you have something to add? Sikarani, anyone?
No, but I could see how that could be quite tricky in a certain audience. But as Vaishnavas, we just shoot for the goal. We don't compromise.
Right. Who did Srila Prabhupada said that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta would preach like he had an axe, chopping technique?
Yeah, clearing the jungle, I think they call it, don't they?
Right.
Yeah.
Prabhupada would say, we're not out to win a popularity contest. We are not a mutual back-patting society, he would say.
Yeah.
Or backstabbing, hopefully.
Neither a backstabbing.
No.
A mutual backstabbing society.
No comment.
Hari Bol, Vijay.
That's quite the entry there, Prabhu.
That's quite an entry.
It's been quite a day. I'm sitting waiting for a vehicle to get fixed that I didn't know I would even be driving today. I ended up at a pre-wedding ceremony that I never had. It was interesting.
Okay. Well, thank you.
It looks very civilized, sitting under a tree like a real sadhu.
Real sadhu, yeah. You got the sadhu look today, Vijay.
I don't have much choice. It's 35 degrees Celsius here. That's I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, but it's up there.
Why don't you read? Why don't you read, Vijay? Can you see the screen?
Sure.
This
I'd be
verse. This verse
happy to.
gives us a description.
This verse gives a description of that eternal sky. Of course, we have a material conception of the sky, and we think of it in relationship to the sun, moon, stars, and so on. But in this verse, the Lord states that in the eternal sky, there is no need for the sun, nor for the moon, nor fire of any kind, because the spiritual sky is already illuminated by the Brahmajyoti, the rays emanating from the Supreme Lord. We are trying with difficulty to reach other planets, but it is not difficult to understand the abode of the Supreme Lord. This abode is referred to as Golok. In the Brahma Samhita, it is beautifully described. Goloka eva nivasati akilatma bhuta. The Lord resides eternally in his abode, Golok. And yet he can be approached from this world. And to this end, the Lord comes to manifest his real form, Acyutananda Vigraha. When he manifests this form, there is no need for our imagining what he looks like. To discourage such imaginative speculation, he descends and exhibits himself as he is, as Shyamasundar. Unfortunately, the less intelligent deride him because he comes as one of us and plays with us as a human being. But because of this, we should not consider that the Lord is one of us. It is by his potency that he presents himself in his real form before us and displays his pastimes, which are prototypes of those pastimes found in his abode.
We can see just how much people are afflicted by impersonalism, even whether it's in Islam or Christianity. If you were to tell them that God comes and plays with us, they wouldn't be able to relate to that, right? They might even get angry at you.
True.
Yeah. And also, like, there was this lady in one of the ISKCON meetings. I think maybe Gaura Prabhu, you were there. I don't remember if you were there or another Prabhu was there. But I remember she started arguing that if in the Hindu scriptures, like, technically Hindu is not a word, but in Vedic scriptures, it's mostly mentioned that Krishna had a sham complexion. But why in the ISKCON books he is being shown as white? So she started like accusing ISKCON people of being racist, that they are showing Krishna as white. I'm like, what the hell? Like, they don't even spare God. Like, oh, it's weird.
Well, they do that with Jesus too. There's a whole thing about that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That some people say Jesus looked Ethiopian, the blackish, darker skin.
Yeah, in South India, if you see in all the temples, all the gods are always black, and in North India they are always white. So, like, if you want to argue, you can argue about everything, but then you miss the whole point. Like, why do you need to argue about these things?
Right.
If God is one, how does it matter if he's black, white, blue, whatever?
Well,
Right.
he does appear as red, white, blue.
Green.
Actually, if you really want to argue it.
Yeah, he can take any color.
Exactly. So, yeah.
Green is Lord Rama, yellow or golden is Lord Chaitanya.
Raha.
Right. But Varaha, both white and red, two different incarnations of Varaha.
Yeah.
But
So
then,
I
of
guess
course, they think you were utterly crazy if you actually did that.
My dad said that. My dad saw one of the books when I first got involved. He's an artist, a very accomplished artist. And he looked and said, God's blue?
why not?
Until I came to US, I didn't know that people can have blue eyes. So true. If that's true, then why not?
There's a natural denial within the heart when one is a materialist, because that means being averse to him. So that's from time immemorial, we've rejected him. It may not be on the surface of our sort of consciousness that we've rejected, and but that's where all this deep inability to believe or to accept, and ultimately, if it gets churned up, that's where the animosity comes from, the wrath against him. It's sitting there until we overcome it, until we become favorably disposed.
Okay, my turn. In the effulgent rays of the spiritual sky, there are innumerable planets floating. The Brahmajyoti emanates from the supreme abode, Krishna Loka, and the Anandamaya Chinmaya planets, which are not material, float in those rays. The Lord says, Natad Bhasayate Suryo, Na Shashanko Napavaka, Yad Gadvan Nivartante, Tadhama Paramang Mama. One who can approach that spiritual sky is not required to descend again to the material sky. In the material sky, even if we approach the highest planet, Brahmaloka, what to speak of the moon, we will find the same conditions of life, namely birth, death, disease, and old age. That reminds me of that verse. What is it? Abrahma Bhuvanal Loka Punar Avar. Oh, we're coming to it. Okay. No planet in the material universe is free from these four principles of material existence. Therefore, the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita, Abrahma Bhuvanal Loka Punar Avartino Rujuna. The living entities are traveling from one planet to another, not by mechanical arrangement, but by a spiritual process. This is also mentioned Yanti Deva Vrata Devan Pitrin Yanti Pitri Vrata. No mechanical arrangement is necessary if we want interplanetary travel. The Gita instructs Yanti Deva Vrata Devan. The moon, the sun, and higher planets are called Svargaloka. There are three different statuses of planets, higher, middle, and lower planetary systems. The Earth belongs to the middle planetary system. Bhagavad Gita informs us how to travel to the higher planetary systems, Devaloka, with a very simple formula. Yanti Deva Vrata Devan. One need only worship the particular demigod of that particular planet, and in that way go to the moon, the sun, or any of the higher planetary systems. So I've heard Srila Prabhupada quote this verse, chapter 9, I think it's verse 29. Yanti Deva Vrta Devan Pitrin Yanti Pitrivrata Bhutani Bhuteja Yanti Madhyajinopimam. And he would use this verse to defeat the Vivekananda premise of Yatamat Tatapat, that, whatever way you think is the way to perfection, well, that's the way. And Prabhupada would say, no, Yanti Deva Vrta Devan. If you worship the demigods, that's where you'll go. If you worship your ancestors, you'll go to them. If you worship the Bhutas or the ghosts, you'll be with them. But if you worship Krishna, then you'll achieve his abode. So Prabhupada would use this verse specifically to defeat the Mayavadi concept that, but yet Krishna says, Yeyatamang prapadyante, right? He says, ultimately, everyone achieves. Well, how does that go? All of them, as they surrender unto me, I reward accordingly. Everyone follows my path. So how do you explain that? If Krishna says everyone follows my path in all, how does he say? Everyone follows my path in all ways.
In all regards, or
yeah. So how do you explain that with regards to Prabhupada stating here? No, you get different results depending upon what your object of worship is. But yet Krishna is saying everyone follows my path.
Because he offers every path to just achieve whatever you want. He arranges everything so that we can fulfill our material desires, and shows how it's done perfectly as well.
Yeah. In other words, even the detours and the deviations, Krishna is there to help. Not help.
We couldn't do it without him showing us how to do it.
Right.
How could you?
Yeah.
The idea is we want to be independent, but that's actually madness. It's not even possible. So you have to be put in a condition that you think you're independent. And then how do you do things? Well, then you got to learn from teachers anyway. You got to take instruction and follow all kinds of processes to achieve whatever your desires are. There's a process for everything. Without following some process, how can you achieve anything?
Right. Anything else from this paragraph I just read?
Oh, those laws. Earlier on,
I
it said
think,
even. Yeah, go ahead.
no, Prabhu, you can continue.
I've already spoken quite a bit. You please go ahead.
So I was thinking, like, but sometimes people also misuse that thing what Vivekananda has said, because people start following wrong paths. You know that in many religions, people are doing so many wrong things on the name of religion to achieve God, which is completely like what a godless person will do, in the sense, like, that's the last thing which God will want somebody to do. So it's like, I think I know some of my friends who are following different paths, like Sunyavadi and other things, other philosophies, and they always vouch for this quotation by Vivekananda that all the paths ultimately lead you to God or something like that. But the thing is that who knows which path is correct and which is not correct. So even like, at least how Prabhu was telling, like, we have to have a process. Like, if we don't know the correct process, there might be, like, suppose for example, through Vaishnavism, there can be somebody who is indulged mostly into kirtan, there is somebody who is indulged mostly into book reading, or there can be somebody who is just doing the mantra jap. But the path should be correct. It shouldn't be something which is like very immoral. That's what I feel.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, there's
Sometimes
standards.
Cheaters and the cheated, wasn't that the phrase that Prabhupada often uses, you know?
Are you
That,
familiar with that, Shikarani, that phrase that Nanda?
No, Mataji, can you elaborate about that?
well, I think it runs along the lines of, you know, in the ultimate sense, if people want to cheat themselves, they will actually have a very effective cheating guru. So Prabhupada used to use a little phrase called the cheaters and the cheated. And you know, cheating gurus are a dime a dozen, as we know.
Jesus also predicted the same. Many will come in my name.
Yeah, good point.
I asked the very popular kirtan leader, not in ISKCON, not in our Gaudiya line. I asked him,
Krishna,
who's the guru of your guru? And he said, oh, that's the mystical thing about him, is that he didn't have a guru. And I didn't want to disturb his mind, but of that verse that one cannot be a guru unless they've had a guru, unless they've been a disciple of a guru, then, you know, this is not bona fide. But I asked him, I said, you know who Lord Chaitanya is? Did you know that Lord Chaitanya started the Sankirtan movement, the Kirtan movement? He said, no, who is he? He said, you recommend a book by him? And I said, yeah, the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And I gave him a link on the database. And the next time I saw a photo of him doing kirtan, he had Gaurnitaya deities in his living room. That's Jai Uttal. You might have heard of him.
Oh,
Jai.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be one of Neem Curly's.
Yeah. So,
huge.
Yeah. I mean, musically, I like what he does. It's just
Yeah,
he's musical.
Yeah, there's well, Satyaraj said he has spoken at length to Krishnadas and Jai Uttal, and they seem to get it for a while. Like, they seem to get the personal Vaishnava understanding, but, you know, it doesn't take too long to kind of slip back more to the impersonal view of things, that, you know, whether you chant Durga, Ganesh Sharanam, Om Namo Shivaya, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama.
Hare Krishna. I mean, you know, Acyutananda told that hilarious story a couple of weeks ago about something, or maybe it was you, I'm not sure, as saying, you know, how Krishna does and leads this great big kirtan chanting Hare Krishna, and then, you know, backstage he's offered prasadam and he says, well, no, it's okay, I've got a pepperoni pizza on the way. God.
Hopefully, since those days, there was Sura that told that story. He was on the same bill at the same yoga studio, but yeah, hopefully by now he's no longer. At least maybe it's a veg pizza or something.
Vegan pepperoni.
Right.
Mm.
That option is there. Krishna Chandra, did you want to continue?
Absolutely, Prabhu.
Yet Bhagavad Gita.
Oh, yet Bhagavad Gita does not advise us to go to any of the planets in this material world. Because even if we were to go to Brahmaloka, the highest planet, through some sort of mechanical contrivance by maybe traveling for 40,000 years, and who would live that long? We will still find the material inconveniences of birth, death, disease, and old age. But one who wants to approach the supreme planet, Krishna Loka, or any of the other planets within the spiritual sky, will not meet with these material inconveniences. Amongst all the planets in the spiritual sky, there is one supreme planet called Goloka Vrindavan, which is the original planet in the abode of the original personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. All of this information is given in Bhagavad Gita, and we are given through its instruction, information, how to leave the material world and begin a truly blissful life in the spiritual sky. Shall I go on?
I think it's Nandapatni.
Okay.
Yeah, I just have a little comment about this. It makes me feel so sad about the kind of pathetic nature of what's going on at the moment with this race to go into space and go to Mars and go to the moon and everything. But in the last two paragraphs, Prabhupada says twice that all these planets, you're going to be met with old age, disease, and death.
Right.
But it seems that even now there's this rather sad and pathetic thing where they want to kind of create transhumans by, applying artificial intelligence chips into humans, and so that we can become almost like cyborgs. But when you read these last two paragraphs, it to me, there's a sort of, without sounding condescending or arrogant, but it's just really sad.
Yeah.
It seems really sad.
I also heard like they are doing something with the sun now. Like they are literally going to distort the energy from the sun, and they have like the Bill Gates project where they are trying to do something with the geothermal energy and everything. It's so scary because they are literally trying to tap into all these natural resources and all these natural phenomena. And I don't know who gives them right, because like it's not their property, right? Next time they will be like, oh, we are going to do something to the oxygen and the water bodies. And oh my God, even thinking about it, it is so scary.
These are all the influences of Kali Yuga, really.
I'll describe the 16th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the demoniac nature. So much is mine, so much more will be tomorrow. I'm in control. I'll be charitable, Bill Gates Foundation. I'll give billions of dollars to the World Health Organization so I can dictate what their health policies will be.
Yeah. What I get out of it is the more important thing, really. I'm giving, but I'm giving because I want something. I want control. I want recognition.
Right. That's the mode of passion. Giving, but expecting back. Whereas goodness is you give, not expecting, just because it's the right thing to do.
May I say one thing?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, one thing that I got from that was that, it's a little tempting to go to a higher planet when you think about it. But ultimately, of course, old age, disease, and death, we would come back to this material world we're in now. And who knows where we would be at that point? I mean, would we meet sadhus? Would we have the transcendental information, would we be in a time where the same Kali Yuga as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had appeared? It's and just the way that I came into Krishna consciousness, it was so it's hard to say, fortuitous, but very it's like I wasn't born into a Vaishnava family. I wasn't really even looking for it in particular. It just kind of, I stumbled upon it. So, it's like, why would we even want to waste our time with, these higher planets? It's actually scary in a sense. It's almost like, you're just going to come right back to where you started from, and maybe even less. It's scary in that way.
It's interesting. Growing up in the 60s, it was all about the space race, and it was exciting. And you could get caught up in the excitement of the thrill of the adventure and the possibilities, the imagination would go wild. But there was always people who said, you're wasting money, you're wasting time. You could be feeding so many people, you could be solving the problems on the earth. Why are you doing that? But when you're caught in that mood of the excitement of what the possibilities might be, well, we can discover things that'll cure hunger forever, and we can expand to other planets. Imagination and the excitement can always create a phantasmagoria that's very enthralling. But if you're really sober and you think about it, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. After all, it's kind of like childish excitement. And the adult is standing there looking at that and saying, child gets excited, but he's not thinking what's going to happen later and the reality of it.
Yeah. And you all might have heard about that story where there was this person who was sleeping, and another person came and asked him, like, why are you sleeping? And he was like, so what shall I do? He was like, why are you not studying? And he was like, what after studying? So after studying, you will be able to go to college. So what after college? You will be able to work. So then he asked, okay, but what I'll do after work? So he was like, you will earn money. And then he was like, so what at last? So you will be able to sleep peacefully. So he was like, I'm already sleeping peacefully. Why the hell do I need to do all that to sleep peacefully? And that's also not guaranteed, because you will be so much into the materialistic entanglements. Ultimately, you will not sleep peacefully. So everything is seems so meaningless. And
Krishna Chandra, what you were saying earlier reminded me of a verse from Bhagavad Gita. I think it's 9:21. Shine punye martyalokam vishanti, where Krishna explains that after enjoying on the heavenly planets, you fall back down again. And I think the analogy is like being on that Ferris wheel at the at the fair. You're way up, and then you have to come down. And
I'm looking it up now. Yeah,
waste of time.
Have you ever heard descriptions of the fall down from Swarga? I've heard only one devotee who related what they heard. I forget who it was. Somebody in Mayapur who studied different shastras, and it was. Usually we just hear, it's going up and coming down, but the details of it was pretty scary. I can't remember too much about it, but it wasn't pleasant. Leaving heavenly planets.
I don't have a reference. Whose turn is it to read now?
Maybe, not sure.
Nanda Patni.
Nanda Patni, yeah. Okay. In the 15th chapter.
In the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, the real picture of the material world is given. And it said there, Udva Mulam Ada Shaktam Ashvatam Praho Avyayam Chandashmi Yasya Parnani Yastam Veda Savedavit. The Supreme Lord said, there is a banyan tree which has its roots upwards and its branches down, and the Vedic hymns are its leaves. One who knows this tree is the knower of the Vedas. Bhagavad Gita 15:1. Here, the material world is described as the tree whose roots are upwards and its branches are below. We have experience of a tree whose roots are upward. If one stands on the bank of a river or any reservoir of water, he can see that the trees reflected in that water are upside down. The branches go downwards and the roots go upwards. Similarly, in this material world is a reflection of the spiritual world. The material world is but a shadow of reality. In the shadow, there's no reality or substantiality. But from the shadow, we can understand that there is substance and reality. In the desert, there is no water, but the mirage suggests that there is such a thing as water. In the material world, there is no water, there is no happiness, but the real water of actual happiness is there in the spiritual world. Beautiful.
In the purport, Prabhupada says, desire is the cause of things being situated in the reflected material light. One who wants to get out of this material existence must know this tree thoroughly through analytical study. Then he can cut off his relationship with it.
I mean, can I make a comment here?
Yeah.
Going back to how we were all, just discussing the futility of actually trying to go to other planets in our little rocket ships and whatnot. The thing that strikes me is that of all the scriptures in this world, I mean, the Bhagavad Gita as it is, and the scriptures that we have, the Srimad Bhagavatam, and the endlessly great analytical purports that Prabhupada writes, I mean, there's just so much knowledge. I suppose that's where the pathos comes in, when you realize that people
What is pathos? What is
this
pathos?
sadness, this sorrow, this about the pathetic nature of people trying to satiate their desires through sheer lack of knowledge, and we were so lucky to be given this blessing of the knowledge by our spiritual teachers, which is so thorough. I mean, Prabhupada never leaves a stone unturned in any of his purports. It's just so irrefutable if you just kind of sink into it. And there's so much information there about going to other planets and what our position is as eternal souls. I mean, there's nothing comparable, it would seem, to this literature. Anyway.
There's no part of life it doesn't address. It's
it's
not some kind of armchair thing. It's so practical.
Yeah, and I also feel sometimes that the books Prabhupada has written and how he is explaining things, it doesn't seem feasible that he learned everything in his lifetime. It looks like he already had all this knowledge from somewhere. And it was like he was just writing and somebody was just guiding him.
It was Krishna, he said Krishna wrote books.
Exactly. That's what I feel. Because any sort of knowledge, even if you do a PhD in one subject, you can never write so many books in this lifetime just with the knowledge acquired in this lifetime. That's what I feel.
As devotee, I don't know if it was Shuddha Kirti or which devotee it was, came into the room. Prabhupada was reading one of his, I don't know if it was Bhagavatam, perhaps. And Srila Prabhupada, so nice to see you relishing your own books. He said, these aren't my books. I didn't write these books. Krishna wrote these books. That's why I can relish them so much.
It's so wonderful.
I was just the microphone. I was just the instrument.
It's adorable.
My God.
Vijagaranga Prabhu, it is your turn, please. The Lord suggests.
The Lord suggests that we attain the spiritual world in the following manner. Nirmana moha jita sangadosha adhyatma nitya vinivritta kama dvandver vimukta sukha dukkha sangyer gachanti amudha padam avyayam tat. That padam avyayam, or eternal kingdom, can be reached by one who is nirman moha. What does this mean? We are after designations. Someone wants to become a son. Someone wants to become Lord. Someone wants to become the president or a rich man or a king or something else. As long as we are attached to these designations, we are attached to the body because designations belong to the body. But we are not these bodies. And realizing this is the first stage in spiritual realization. We are associated with the three modes of material nature, but we must become detached through devotional service to the Lord. If we are not attached to devotional service to the Lord, then we cannot become detached from the modes of material nature. Designations and attachments are due to our lust and desire, our wanting to lord it over the material nature. As long as we do not give up this propensity of lording it over material nature, there is no possibility of returning to the kingdom of the Supreme, the Sanatana Dham. That eternal kingdom, which is never destroyed, can be approached by one who is not bewildered by the attractions of false material enjoyments, who is situated in the service of the Supreme Lord. One so situated can easily approach that supreme abode.
In the purport, Prabhupada says that the surrendering process is described here very nicely. The first qualification is that one should not be deluded by pride, because the conditioned soul is puffed up, thinking himself the Lord of material nature. It is very difficult for him to surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One should know by the cultivation of real knowledge that he is not Lord of material nature, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the Lord. When one is free from delusion caused by pride, he can begin the process of surrender. For one who is always expecting some honor in this material world, it is not possible to surrender to the Supreme Person. Pride is due to illusion. For although one comes here, stays for a brief time, and then goes away, he has the foolish notion that he's the Lord of the world. He thus makes all things complicated, and he is always in trouble. The whole world moves under this impression. People are considering that the Lord, people are considering that the land, this earth, belongs to human society, and they have divided the land under the false impression that they are the proprietors. One has to get out of this false notion that human society is the proprietor of this world. When one is freed from such a false notion, he becomes free from all the false associations caused by familial, social, and national affections. These fake associations bind one to this material world. After this stage, one has to develop spiritual knowledge. One has to cultivate knowledge of what is actually his own and what is actually not his own. And when one has an understanding of things as they are, he becomes free from all dual conceptions such as happiness, distress, pleasure, pain. He becomes full in knowledge. Then it is possible for him to surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yeah, that's a lot of Maya to cut through. Pride, sometimes it's called false prestige, right?
Prestige, fame, and adoration. Remember, we used to say that.
Adoration, profit, and distinction. Subtle sex life.
I was going to say earlier,
right,
when we were talking about the Mayavadi verse that everyone, that Yatamat Tatapat,
yeah.
and then how you were mentioning the verse that Prabhupada used to defeat that as like those who worship. What was the verse again? Pitridevan.
Those who worship the demigods go to the demigods. Those who worship the ancestors, those who worship the ghost and spirit, but those who worship Krishna.
Right. So I was thinking in the rubric of someone growing up, at least in the West, one response would be, why do I have to worship anybody? Even this, this idea we got to worship somebody. This is kind of like, isn't this the comes from that pride? It's like, I don't need to acknowledge anyone else as supreme. Why should I worship anybody?
That's unique. I think more of myself than to think I have to worship someone, but yet they go to these rock concerts and they worship these people on stage.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, because actually we do worship, but it's not in the consciousness of sometimes of materialists. It's not like, oh, I don't worship anybody, but you do adore. When you adore and you admire someone, we all have to. That is our nature. Our very nature is to adore and admire. And often it's maybe out of envy. It's like, I wish I was a famous rock star, or I was a famous movie star, or whatever. But it's still that adoration kind of, we want to receive it, but we also want to give it. It's intrinsic in our nature.
I was buying some vegetables at the farmer's market up the street today, and there was a young lady, tall. She was standing next to me, waiting to be next in line to be served. And I said, "What you got on your T-shirt there?" And she stretched it out, and she said, "It's Justin Bieber." I said, because he's just from about 2 hours away from where I live,
Yeah.
from St. Thomas, Ontario.
He's
And
an interesting case study and point of how he became a phenomenon.
yeah, I said,
I-
is he a good boy now, or he's not getting himself into trouble? She said, yes, he's improved a lot.
Good.
I said,
He has.
"Oh."
You know, celebrity culture is toxic beyond belief.
Hmm.
Can I just say one quick thing?
Yeah, do.
Please.
Oh, thank you. When Dweja Prabhu was talking about giving adoration, I was thinking about the time when I was like into science fiction and Star Wars, and they had these conventions where you meet the actors, and it's like you spend hours, you spend like $100 just to like get darshan of some actor from old science fiction. You get there, you get to do a selfie with them, get an autograph.
With Dr. Spark or someone.
Yeah.
And I also thought
sports
there was.
figures.
And there's also, like, I remember when we were reading teachings of Lord Chaitanya, like I would say at least a couple of months ago, there was a section that's warned devotees not to get too involved with works of fiction. And then that I was thinking about that too. It was a
Science fiction. I was a science fiction buff, but I never went to the conventions for some reason. But literature.
I went to a few.
Nice. And what about, have you ever experienced the anime? It's a huge phenomenon. This Japanese
Japanese,
anime.
isn't it?
As a child, I did, yeah, a little
Yeah.
bit, but I never got too attached. I was more into Star Wars.
It's a huge. It's bigger than science fiction conventions everywhere. They hold these things everywhere, and they walk around in all these cars. They become the super character, or the dark character. They have some very dark characters in that whole thing. It's a very interesting phenomenon. It's very huge in the world. It's much bigger than science fiction ever was, and it's become pretty big compared to what it used to be.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's the thing, is that people are creating their own fantasy worlds to escape into, and even more with gaming and virtual reality and
Yeah.
celebrity, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, especially in the kind of atheistic world where you have these megastars getting up there who hardly have a piece of clothing on, and are sort of absolutely vile, and yet they are, you know, typified as the greatest thing that this country can be offering. I mean, that's hugely sad. Not to sound like a complete snob, but I mean,
it's drawing on our very nature of needing something other than this insane reality that's been created by the demoniac or the Rakshasa leaders, who are just milking for the privileged few, and the rest, you know, they got to work so hard. No one likes their jobs. They're just trying to escape somehow.
Like Klaus Schwab said, in the future, you'll have nothing and you'll be happy.
What was that again?
Yeah.
Klaus Schwab, he's one of the, I don't know who is he, is one of the big demons, right?
yeah, the big financier, Charles.
Yeah.
Schwab? Yeah. He's the hedge fund manager.
Right.
Yeah. I think people's notion of happiness is so much wrong these days. Like, I was watching a video where somebody was asking a spiritual guru that how can like you left so that person had a lot of degrees before coming to spirituality, and I would say the student was asking him that you had such a very high degree, you had such a great high paying job, why did you leave everything to become a spiritual guru, and now you are suffering? That's what the student told him. And he was laughing and he was like, why do you think I am suffering? Like, how can you even think I'm suffering? You are suffering. You don't even know that you are suffering. It's like he was giving the example that how in, like, I think somebody gave this example already, that how in a desert, the camel is so hungry that it starts eating cactus. And because it is eating the succulents and the cactus, his tongue gets cut,
Yeah.
but he is actually tasting his own blood and
Yes.
he feels, oh, it is so yummy. But he doesn't know that he has cut his tongue and he's drinking his own blood. So in this materialistic world, we are so unhappy, but we still think that this is bliss and this is happiness because we are so much conditioned like that.
It's because Maya has two potencies, Avaranatmika Shakti and Prapayatmika Shakti. With the Prapayatmika Shakti, she's pulling us down, and with the Avaranatmika Shakti, Prabhupada explains, she's covering us over. So while we're being pulled into Maya, we're like, we could not go into Maya unless we were covered up, right? Otherwise, we'd like, oh no, what's going on? I can't tolerate this. I don't want this.
Yeah, yeah. And that's why even parents, like even our parents who are in the materialistic world, when they see sannyasis, they think, oh my God, they are so unhappy. They never got married. They don't have children. But they don't know that actually they are the most happiest people in the world, probably.
Yes.
There's a
Yeah.
Chinese proverb where a monkey is taking a fish out of the water and, oh, let me help you and put you on the land so you can be happy.
Yeah.
Too much monkey business.
Yeah.
All right. I think it is Sikarani's turn now.
Yeah.
Elsewhere in the Gita.
Elsewhere in the Gita, it is stated, Avyakto kshara iti uktash tam ahu pramam gatim yam prapya na nivartante tad dharma paramam mama. Avyakta means unmanifested. Not even all of the material world is manifested before us. Our senses are so imperfect that we can't even see all of the stars within this material universe. In Vedic literature, we can receive much information about all the planets, and we can believe it or not believe it. All of the important planets are described in Vedic literatures, especially Srimad Bhagavatam. And the spiritual world, which is beyond this material sky, is described as avyakta, unmanifested. One should desire and hanker after that supreme kingdom. For when one attains that kingdom, he doesn't have to return to this material world. Next, one may raise the question of how one goes about approaching that abode of the Supreme Lord. Information of this is given in the 8th chapter.
Vijagaranga, you want to continue?
I just read 2 ago.
Okay, well, I just
Yeah,
see.
I think now is Krishna Das, Krishna Chandra Das.
Aye, thank you.
Krishna Chandra's after me in the list, but it doesn't matter.
Oh,
Then it's your turn. Then
I
it's
want to
your
go in
turn.
order. I'll go when it's my turn.
It said there, Antale chamame bas marang muktaba kalebaram ya prayati samadbhavam yati nasti atra sangshayaha. Anyone who quits his body at the end of life, remembering me, attains immediately to my nature. And there is no doubt of this. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 8, verse 5. One who thinks of Krishna at the time of his death goes to Krishna. One must remember the form of Krishna. If he quits his body thinking of this form, he approaches the spiritual kingdom. Madhbhavam refers to the supreme nature of the Supreme Being. The Supreme Being is Satchidananda Vigraha, eternal, full of knowledge and bliss. Our present body is not Satchidananda. It is Asat, not Sat. It is not eternal. It is perishable. It is not Chit, full of knowledge, but it is full of ignorance. We have no knowledge of the spiritual kingdom. nor do we even have perfect knowledge of this material world, where there are so many things unknown to us. The body is also Nira-ananda. Instead of being full of bliss, it is full of misery. All of the miseries we experience in the material world arise from the body. But one who leaves this body thinking of the Supreme Personality of Godhead at once attains a Acyutananda body, as is promised in the 5th verse, the 8th chapter, where Lord Krishna says, he attains my nature. K. Krishna Chandra Prabhu.
The process of quitting this body and getting another body in the material world is also organized. A man dies after it has been decided what form of body he will have in the next life. Higher authorities, not the living entity himself, make this decision. According to our activities in this life, we either rise or sink. This life is a preparation for the next life. If we can prepare, therefore, in this life to get promotion to the kingdom of God, then surely, after quitting this material body, we will attain a spiritual body just like the Lord.
One thing that comes to my mind in this paragraph is that after a man dies, it has been decided what form of body he will have in the next life, and high authorities make this decision. So I've heard that when a person goes into a coma, that's because the authorities are deciding, what are we going to do with him? That's what. Yeah. And some
Must be a tough job sometimes.
Yeah, some people can go into a coma, for like a long time, right?
Some are in for years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. And I've heard that according to Ayurveda, that old ghee, I don't know how old it has to be, but if it's very old ghee, it can bring a man out of a coma or a woman.
How? How is it applied?
I'd have to consult the Charaka Samhita to find out. That's interesting. Anyway.
Yeah. Where'd you hear that?
Prabhupada. He said that in one place.
Interesting.
Yeah. Okay, whose turn?
Mataji.
Okay. Where are we? As explained before,
Yeah.
there are different kinds of transcendentalists: the Brahmavadi, the Paramatmavadi, and the devotee. And as mentioned in the Brahmajyoti, spiritual sky, there are innumerable spiritual planets. The number of these planets is far, far greater than all of the planets of this material world. This material world has been approximated as only 1/4 of the creation. In this material segment, there are millions and billions of universes with trillions of planets and suns, stars, and moons. Gosh, take that in. But this whole material creation is only a fragment of the total creation. Most of the creation is in the spiritual sky. One who desires to merge into the existence of the Supreme Brahman is at once transferred to the Brahmajyoti of the Supreme Lord and thus attains the spiritual sky. The devotee who wants to enjoy the association of the Lord enters into the Vaikuntha planets, which are innumerable, and the Supreme Lord, by his plenary expansions as Narayan with 4 hands and with different names like Pradyumna, Aniruddha, Govinda, etc., associates with him there. Therefore, at the end of life, transcendentalists either think of the Brahmajyoti, the Paramatma, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. In all cases, they enter into the spiritual sky, but only the devotee, or he who is in personal touch with the Supreme Lord, enters into the Vaikuntha planets. The Lord further adds that of this there is no doubt. This must be believed firmly. We shouldn't reject that which doesn't tally with our imagination. Our attitude should be that of Arjuna, quote, I believe everything that you've said. Therefore, when the Lord says that at the time of death, whoever thinks of him as Brahman or Paramatma or as the personality of Godhead certainly enters into the spiritual world, there is no doubt about it. There is no question of disbelieving it. Yay. So many promises in this last paragraph, so many reassurances and promises. So beautiful.
And getting over that doubt, that is a huge thing for coming from materialistic thinking to transcendence, just overcoming all those doubts.
I find the promises very reassuring.
I agree.
Yeah.
Me too.
I was just thinking, Dvija, that I suppose that doubts we can be conscious that we have doubts if we at least I'm speaking for myself, not that I have theoretically I have complete faith in everything the Prabhupada's saying here, but I'm just thinking, well, how do my doubts manifest? I guess it's when I slacken in my sadhana, in my practice, not reading enough, not chanting enough, etc. That would you say, do any of you think that's an expression of a doubt?
That's interesting. Doubt does weaken faith, and weak faith means, it's going to mean a slackening for sure. That would be consistent with that to some degree. There's a lot of subtleties about that, about this idea of doubt.
Yay, we have Nurhari and Bhavatrini back with us. Yay.
Hare Krishna.
Could you address my question, Bhavatrini and Nurhari? Here, Nanda Patni is just commenting how it's so wonderful to see all of the reassurance that Prabhupada's giving us, that if we fully apply ourselves, there is no doubt we'll go back to be with Krishna. And so I was reflecting, well, gee, if I really had no doubts, wouldn't I be minimizing my eating, my sleeping? Wouldn't I just make chanting and reading like my lifeblood? I'm wondering if you have some thoughts.
Bhavatrini, you want to say something?
Well, for myself, it's like weakness of heart, like
There's an expression for that.
Yeah, it's just I have the desire and I believe what he's saying, but the mind is, like in the Bhagavad Gita, more difficult to control than the wind. I mean, I even today saying my noon Gayatri, I stopped and started all over again. I got to the second line and my mind was somewhere else. So, I had to concentrate, watching my thumb go on each section of my finger. And so I do have faith, but I don't have nishta. I don't have
steadiness.
Steadiness.
Well, I think actually it's a purificatory process, and we are working off countless of millions of lives that we have been in this material world. We do have initial faith because that's what brought us to associate with Srila Prabhupada. So there's sincerity there. When we asked, actually, Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Maharaj, we were with Jalrani Didi and other Sajjan Maharaj, and there were junior devotees too there. And they were saying how some of their friends, this particular boy, was saying that his friends were saying, we were thinking about giving up chanting because it seems that everything is going worse for us. And so
and the solution is to give up chanting.
So Prabhupada taught us about a room that has been closed for so long, and so when you open it, everything's settled, and when you start cleaning it, the dust comes up, and it's like you choke.
Overwhelming. Yeah.
Yeah. So Bharati Maharaj had a really amazing answers, and two. One, he says, and so he said, this devotee said, well, we don't notice any change. It seems like it's worse. But then he said, no. He said he gave the example of a faucet that is dripping one drop at a time onto a stone floor, and he said, after a few years, you'll see the damage. But when did that damage, Maharaj said, when did that damage begun? I said, those who have forensic, he said, forensic, it was really neat, the terms that he used. He said, those who have forensic view or side or scientific forensic understanding, they will know that from the very first drop, the damage began. Then he said, the mind is like that, but he said, don't pay much attention to that. It will go places, but it's okay. Just keep chanting, non-stop chanting.
Don't become discouraged. Yeah.
Yes.
Non-stop.
Yeah. And remember, their promise us. We need to remember our promises, absolutely. But they promise, and Lord Chaitanya promised, and all his devotees. I mean, today I'm here in Kaviraj Goswami says the process is a gradual process.
Yeah.
Eventually, yes, we will give up all these things. I was saying, my habits of sleeping. Prabhupada said there is one really a little talk where Prabhupada said everything should be minimized, everything has to be reduced, but we cannot imitate. Imitation, there'll be really a fall down. It'll be terrible. It would try to be like a 6 Goswamis, sleep 2 hours and don't eat anything except for.
In Hawaii, Srila Prabhupada said, the 6 Goswamis, they sleep 2 hours a night. I cannot imitate. I sleep 3.
I watched Prabhupada. I guarded him in Mayapur, and he slept only 2 hours. I don't know, and I know his days were really busy. I mean, not only he had the entire. I mean, people were coming from all over the world, but also local people were come, and he was always busy. So I don't really know if he did sleep more than.
What hours did he sleep? Which hours? Which ones?
Oh, from 9 to 11 p.m.
Wow.
and in the same place that he had received, I call it the world, really, pretty much. It was his desk, and it had a foam long enough for him to stretch and sleep there. He went to sleep. So up until 9, he was doing things, and 9 to 11, he turned off his light, and he leaned on his. I mean, he stretched in his foam, and he had a pretty nice sized desk, and mosquito net was over everything. Then at 11 o'clock at night, the light went on, and Prabhupada sat up, grabbed his version of Siddhar, commentary, pretty big size book, and his dictaphone, and began to translate.
He didn't even go to the bathroom, didn't shower, just immediately got into translating, immediately. Right from his bed.
No.
Right.
Yeah. So, all these things, it's so important to have a guru live telling us what to do. Tamal Krishna Goswami, he said, Prabhupada, we can read the books and then everything will be okay. So like when Prabhupada said, he stretch across the desk and pull his ear. Say, yeah, but the book won't do this. In other words, the spiritual master is always is the Alpha and the Omega. It truly is. Even when we advance all the way, when we are so-called liberation, and we have attained Prem, Guru will be there, will be present.
And that spiritual master isn't always Diksha Guru. It can be Shiksha Guru.
Oh, absolutely. We're fortunate enough to those Acyutananda Prabhu, and he had Prabhupada as Diksha and Shiksha Gurudev.
Yeah.
He was instructing him in so many details. I had the fortune too. Prabhupada instructed me in some little Shamarani Didi and like that. But Rupa Goswami says at least 5 instructing gurus we should take.
Really?
Yes.
Rupa Goswami says.
Yes, it's there. The Sridhar Maharaj, I'm going to ask him and I'll coach you next time. I think on the 6th we have a meeting on the 7th. And he's a Bhakti Shastra scholar of pure excellence. I mean, he read all the Goswamis. He read, beginning with Srila Prabhupada, he read all his...
Sridhar Maharaj? Bhakti Sridhar
Bhakti Swarup Sridhar Maharaj.
A disciple of Bhakti
Vaibhav Puri
Maharaj.
He's a temple president of the Gundicha temple, next door to Gundicha.
Maybe Krishna Chandra knows him.
I do know him. I've traveled with him in the past. Spent a lot of time with him.
Yeah, nice. Okay. So we brought him here to Hawaii, and then 3 times.
Wow.
We spent time here. This room is actually Tirtha, and he wanted to be here, and
this is
he
the
loved
room
it.
Srila Narayan Maharaj stayed in
and translated. So
nice.
Narayan Maharaj was very happy here. It's very quiet, and
cool.
We had some interesting pastimes.
Very nice to see the two of you together. By the way, we rarely see both of your faces.
We're really busy, and sometimes our attorney doesn't really want to see me because she does all some of the administration and paperwork, which is horrible stuff. And today, I'm sorry, as I was coming driving, there is a blank spot there, where everything dropped. And then I got home, and our lawyer was on with Bhatrini, and we had to attend to this. It's a piece of land that we sell in Maui, and anyhow, it's become a little complicated. So,
are you okay? Your nose got...
oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Yesterday, the kitchen door attacked him.
I had a fight with the door. There's a metal door, and the workers adjust the spring too tight. And so I did push it and came back to me. And
you two haven't read yet. Could you please read for us?
That's what we wanted to ask you. We're using our laptop.
Okay.
There it is.
Okay.
But we get the image.
The image
how do we
of
get rid of,
everyone is on the side. We don't know how to hide
blocking,
it. It's blocking half of the...
Oh, so you cannot see this.
It's blocking part of it.
You can drag and drop. You can drag and drop it.
Yeah.
You can drag and drop.
The pictures or the text?
So the picture you can drag anywhere on the screen and you can set it up.
Okay.
Well, it's so big, I don't know. Okay.
Oh, there.
Yeah.
Drag it through. That's what I was doing with my phone, but I was doing my thing.
Tikarani, she's a digital queen.
Oh,
are you the one in Pakistan?
No.
I am in Rochester, New York.
She graduated from RIT, where Yadubar and Vishaka graduated from.
Wow.
So how am I going to do this?
Wonderful.
It still covers.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Very smart girl.
Okay. I'm trying to figure it out because there's no way it doesn't cover. I have to move it around.
Yeah.
I'll just have to move it around.
Just move around.
Are you able to move it around?
Yeah.
Yeah, the picture, yes. And now we got another screen on.
Oh, no.
So currently you can see the text?
Yes, we see the text, part of it on the right side. Well, she moved it now.
I can't get rid of it.
So what you can do is you can actually close it also. If you click on it again, it will close. So you can just close it. And then only the text will be there.
Okay.
So currently you are in gallery view, right?
That's not closing it. Okay.
Oh, no. Okay.
Okay, that closed that. Now, if I click on it.
Sorry.
Yeah.
How do I close it? It just gives me the choice. Mute my audio, stop video, pin.
No. So basically, so you see all of us, right?
Yes.
So basically, it is a gallery view or a list view. What kind of view is that?
It's a lot.
It's kind of in a list or it's in grid?
It's in a column list.
It's a column.
Yeah. So on the header, if you click, that list will collapse.
Okay. I'll try, but right now we don't have it. We don't have the writing anymore. Just
Okay,
Oh,
maybe
it's-
someone else should
okay,
read
there
in
we
the
go.
meantime. It's a lot of technical difficulties.
Sorry.
okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I can go on my phone,
Yeah.
shut this one, and then go on my phone, or we can move it as we read. There we go. Ah,
Yeah.
Oh, but that picture came again. So
If
can
you
you
can't read it, then Krishna Chandra, would you like to read? If
Well,
they
I
can't,
can't think we can do it if I move it like this. Whoops.
Okay.
There we go.
Oh, it's
Perfect.
gone.
We got it.
Yay.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Good.
Where's it? Where
The
did it-
information
Oh,
on how.
The information on how to think of the Supreme Being at the time of death is also given in the Gita. Yam yam vapishmaram bhavam jati ante kalevaram tam tam ivaiti kumteya sada tad bhava bhavitaha. In whatever condition one quits his present body, in his next life he will attain to that state of being without fail. E.g. 8.6. Material nature is a display of one of the energies of the Supreme Lord. In the Vishnu Purana, the total energies of the Supreme Lord as Vishnu, Shakti, Paraprokta, etc. are delineated. The Supreme Lord has diverse and innumerable energies which are beyond our conception. However, great learned sages or liberated souls have studied these energies and have analyzed them into three parts. All of the energies are of Vishnu Shakti. That is to say that they are different potencies of Lord Vishnu. That energy is para, transcendental. Living entities also belong to the superior energy, as has already been explained. The other energies or material energies are in the mode of ignorance. At the time of death, we can either remain in the inferior energy of this material world, or we can transfer to the energy of the spiritual world. In life, we are accustomed to thinking either of the material or the spiritual energy. There are so many literatures which fill our thoughts with the material energies, newspapers, novels, etc. Our thinking, which is now absorbed in these literatures, must be transferred to the Vedic literatures. The great sages, therefore, have written so many Vedic literatures, such as the Puranas, etc. The Puranas are not imaginative. They are historical records. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, there is the following verse.
He's going to do it.
Okay,
He's gonna do
you're going to move it?
okay.
Maya mukta jiver nahi
Sorry.
swata Krishna jnana. Jivera kripaya kala Krishna Veda Purana. CC Madhya 21-22. Oh, it's Bengali, probably. Oh, no, it's from another. It's from the.
Bengali.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yes, looks like it's Bengali.
Nirhari, would you like to continue, Nirhari? Prabhu?
Sure. Okay.
If it was, I love the tune that Prabhupada taught us for the Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's
Oh, give
Maya
it.
Jiver Nahi Swata Krishna Jnana Jivera Kripaya Kaila Krishna Veda Purana.
Thank you.
Nice, nice.
The forgetful living entities or conditioned souls have forgotten their relationship with the Supreme Lord, and they are engrossed in thinking of material activities. Just to transfer their thinking power to the spiritual sky, Krishna has given a great number of Vedic literatures. First, he divided the Vedas into 4. Then he explained them in the Puranas. And for less capable people, he wrote the Mahabharata. In the Mahabharata, there is given the Bhagavad Gita. Then all Vedic literature is summarized in the Vedanta Sutra. And for future guidance, he gave a natural commentation on the Vedanta Sutra called Srimad Bhagavatam. We must always engage our minds in reading these Vedic literatures, just as materialists engage their minds in reading newspapers, magazines, and so many materialistic literatures. We must transfer our reading to these literatures which are given to us by Vyasadeva. In that way, it will be possible for us to remember the Supreme Lord at the time of death. That is the only way suggested by the Lord, and he guarantees the result. There is no doubt, quote unquote, Bhagavad Gita 8:7. Tatsmat sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmara yadya chat Mai arpita mano buddhir mam evaisyasi asamsaya. Therefore, Arjuna, you should always think of me, and at the time you should continue, and at the same time, you should continue your prescribed duty and fight. With your mind and activities always fixed on me, and everything engaged in me, you will attain me without any doubt. Unquote.
In the purport of that verse, Srila Prabhupada says, this instruction to Arjuna is very important for all men engaged in material activities. The Lord does not say that one should give up his prescribed duties or engagements. One can continue them and at the same time think of Krishna by chanting Hare Krishna. This will free one from material contamination and engage the mind and intelligence in Krishna. By chanting Krishna's names, one will be transferred to the supreme planet, Krishna Loka, without a doubt.
So, if I can say, comment, I still remember, thinking of what you asked, and that we cannot give things that are of inferior taste if we don't have a higher one. And today I heard in Charitamrita that by listening, Harikatha is so important, because that's the entrance first, it will liberate us, and it's a side effect of attaining that higher taste, that we learning to love Krishna is by hearing the Mahabhavats. There's no other way. I mean, we can try, but it's by association too. It's very important. So those were one of the two instructions that Lord Chaitanya gave to Bhatta Raghunath, was to don't get married, and the second one was to go back and listen to Srimad Bhagavatam every day from a self-realized devotee, one who knows God. So that's very important. So so to begin with, I think Bapu is important, because that's the sambandha. That's how we connect, and that's a relationship. Later on, we might not have our guru's presence, his physical form, to instruct us all the time, but he leaves. In the case of Srila Prabhupada, he's giving us this text. So yes, it's important that neophyte and the new devotees who come and have a pure devotee as their spiritual master, and then continue that association by hearing, by our meetings, where Krishna Katha will be spoken. So and so Kaviraj Goswami says today that by listening to Harikatha, by hearing this past tense of Lord Krishna, all those anarthas gradually will be gone. And following what our Gurudev has required from us is the chanting, that it all goes hand in hand. And Sri Narayan Maharaj would say, what comes first, the giving up all your anarthas or Krishna Prem?
One would normally think you have to give up those anarthas before you can have Krishna Prem.
Yeah, they have, he said actually, what this spontaneous love, Raganuga Bhakti, people who are engaged in Raganuga Bhakti, they might still have anarthas, but they will be leaving.
At one point,
one has to do a little effort, of course. It's always the two fingers, isn't it?
Right.
Mother Jashoda, she really worked hard at catching Krishna. When he saw that she was like really about to, she just could not physically do. Her hair was a mess. She was sweating, perspiring.
Baba Trini has a point she wants to make, I can tell. It must be hard. It must be hard to make your points when being married to Nihari, because he's full of nectar and he's just gone.
Well, she's too, so we just like,
I just, it went out of my head.
Oh, I'm sorry.
When he was, when we were both hearing him say that what comes first, the prem or giving up your anarthas.
Right.
We're thinking, you can't have prem if you have anarthas.
Right.
But actually, it's the descending process. He said prem comes first. But
you have to have a taste.
Well,
Yeah.
you have to have a taste. All that will come. All that's,
You
we
have
have
to
to
be
have the effort.
desiring to give up.
Yeah.
You have to desire to give up your anartas. So, you know, but it's a descending process. You cannot, like, if you're able to chant your prescribed amount of rounds and follow the four regulative principles, it's due to the mercy of the spiritual master and your desire. So, yeah.
Combined.
Yeah.
Combined.
So
I think all devotees have the same experience, that everyone says, wow, yeah, that taste that I had at first, it drives you forward, and then it goes away, and it's like, huh, where'd it go? I want it back. I want it all the time.
Like for like was it
that's
Prahlad?
youthful and
No, not
youthful,
Prahlad, yeah.
youthful enthusiasm.
Right.
But it's all patience is one of the Vaishnava qualities.
Yeah.
And it's what's required from us.
It says in the Chaitanya Charitamrita in English, patience is a Vaishnava virtue.
And we learned that in the ashram.
Oh yeah.
Isn't it? I mean, you know, you put all together with people you don't even know, and everybody has their little habits about how to do things, and etc. You know,
but that just reminded me of Prahlad. You know, he sits and meditates, and he sees Krishna, and then Krishna goes away, and he spends the rest of his life trying to see Krishna again.
Narada Muni.
Narada Muni, I'm sorry.
Narada Muni, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I knew it wasn't Prahlad. I just.
It happened with Dhruva too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I found actually in Los Angeles in '72, there were two teenage boys we nicknamed Arjun and Krishna. One was blonde and one had dark hair. And they would skip their school and come to hear Srila Prabhupada speak every morning. Wow. And one day they came running up and they said, look, I found this letter in the outside hallway between what was the, it wasn't the temple room yet. You know, there was two buildings with a hallway outside. We found this letter on the ground. It said, Dear Bhakta Steve, yes, I guarantee that if you chant 16 rounds a day and follow the four regulative principles for the rest of your life, at the time of death, I will take you back home.
Very nice.
But I don't know why the letter was on the ground, though. So I was wondering, it's a simple process, but it's not easy to follow. I don't know very many people that from the time they were told to chant 16 rounds a day at least and follow the four regulative principles have done it without fail.
Right. It's a challenge.
Yeah.
Vijay Garanga, did you want to read, Prabhu? He does not advise Arjuna.
That's nice to have that.
Yeah, I like it.
Vijay Garanga, are you there? Hello?
He's no longer in the group.
Oh, okay. I guess whoever he was waiting for came. Sikarani, please.
Yeah.
He does not advise.
He does not advise Arjuna to simply remember him and give up his occupation. No, the Lord never suggests anything impractical. In this material world, in order to maintain the body, one has to work. Human society is divided according to work into four divisions of social order: Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. The Brahmana class or intelligent class is working in one way. The Kshatriya or administrative class is working in another way. And the mercantile class and the laborers are all tending to their specific duties. In the human society, whether one is a laborer, merchant, warrior, administrator, or farmer, or even if one belongs to the highest class and is a literary man, a scientist, or a theologian, he has to work in order to maintain his existence. The Lord therefore tells Arjuna that he need not give up his occupation, but while he is engaged in his occupation, he should remember Krishna. If he doesn't practice remembering Krishna while he is struggling for existence, then it will not be possible for him to remember Krishna at the time of death. Lord Chaitanya also advises this. He says that one should practice remembering the Lord by chanting the names of the Lord always. The names of the Lord and the Lord are non-different. So Lord Krishna's instruction to Arjuna to remember me and Lord Chaitanya's injunction to always chant the names of Lord Krishna are the same instruction. There is no difference because Krishna and Krishna's name are non-different. In the absolute status, there is no difference between reference and referent. Therefore, we have to practice remembering the Lord always, 24 hours a day, by chanting his names and molding our life activities in such a way that we can remember him always.
I just like to make a little comment about 24 hours a day, always remembering him. I was thinking, well, gee, what about those 6-7 hours that we're sleeping? And I believe Srila Prabhupada stated that if you hear Krishna book at night before you go to bed, and you remember Krishna's leelas, there's a chance that you may dream of them. So that's one way of remembering Krishna while you're sleeping. I also know some devotees, they keep Prabhupada's lectures going on all night long while they're sleeping. Prabhupada is speaking Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita. I wouldn't be able to go to sleep if I had something playing, because I'm pretty hyper, and I would just. Anyone have anything to add to this? What we just read?
If it's okay, I just wanted to go back to the subject matter of doubt, and I know it. But don't worry about going back to the text or anything. But I can't remember who it was exactly. I'm not sure if it was Acyutananda or even if it was Srila Prabhupada himself, saying that actually, from another point of view, doubt is a sign of intelligence. And that, and then thinking about that, that it then makes you go into the, tadvidi pranipatena, just making further inquiry and reading or associating with the Vani of your spiritual master in his words, by reading his works and thinking about the philosophy. I think of Prabhupada, the way he would walk along the shore on the morning walks and really toss out these provocative questions to his disciples, to make them really, really think about the philosophy. And he was quite fiery about that, saying, you've got to think about this. You've got to really understand. You've got to really know. So I just wanted to mention that, because I think that actually doubt can be a great springboard for deepening, your relationship to your spiritual master's words. Anyway, that was on my mind.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Oh, there's many occasions where Prabhupada said, don't have just blind faith. And one of, I was a science student and very inquisitive since I was a child. But there are, I would say that, like you said, you mentioned tadvidi pranipatena, that inquiry has to be in a nice way, in a humble way, presented to the guru. It's not a challenging, inquisitive question. And then the service, the ready to do any service necessary to please the spiritual master. So be like that, and that's we have gyan and bigyan, applied knowledge. That's what I really like about Krishna. Prabhupada was about that. 2 words, because I had to translate the books right from the very beginning, because Hanuman was a French-Canadian devotee. He picked the language pretty fast, but it took him about 6 months. So he said, English, so can you please translate the verse and the purport, and then I'll give the lecture in the evening. So, and immediately when I had to, when I listened the opening of Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita, I always thought history like that, but I saw how it was very practical. Prabhupada was a very practical man. He applied all this. It's not just either sentimental. Yeah. So the doubts are always erased by our association. Sarusanga, Sarusanga, Sarusanga.
Especially the Vani, because if you don't have the Vapu, then you really have the association through, reading is like a very, very deep meditation. And personally, I feel I'm with my spiritual master when I'm reading, and I get so many realizations, which obviously then mitigate any kind of doubt and deepen that connection. That's why Prabhupada so sensitively often used to say, yes, but are you actually reading my books? Are you reading them? And then I guess subtext, you could say, now that he's not personally with us, you could say, are you actually associating with me? Are you really thinking and realizing what the depth of this is that I've given you? So doubt can be a great
springboard,
motivator, maybe we could say, rather than a weakness as such.
In Mexico
See the
City,
silver lining. Sorry,
in Mexico City in 75, Prabhupada announced the translation of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, and we had, of course, the Sankirtan devotees, the book distributors, were sitting in the first row, and they all cheered, and it was a big tumultuous cheer, and Prabhupada said, very good, very good. And they said, oh, Prabhupada, we will distribute thousands of those. Please, that's great. We will do it, we will do it. And Prabhupada, after that, it's okay, that's very good. They said, but aren't you going to read them? And then he calmed the whole entire temple.
Where was this?
It was in Mexico City at the temple. Hanuman called me and he said, Prabhupada's going to be in Mexico. Let's go see him. And so we arrived. It was February. I can't remember exact day, but Pradyumna Prabhu was there. Hridayananda Maharaj. Nitai was the translator at that time. And I believe Bahulasa must have been there, maybe in the first time I saw it. But anyhow, Prabhupada looked at the entire room and he said, yes, you're still young. So read my books. You'll be able to read my books at least 3 more times.
Nice. Yeah.
So it was very important.
But I'd like to differ. I find being in the presence of the pure devotee destroys all doubts and takes you to the spiritual world. Just like there were so many instances where one time in Los Angeles, at the end of the lecture, Srila Prabhupada says, so, is everyone all right? And we all said, yes, Srila Prabhupada. No problems, everyone's fine. Jai! And a third time. So everyone is okay. Yes, Srila Prabhupada, Jai! And then he left the room. And just a few minutes afterwards, we're all looking at each other and thinking things like, I don't like that sari she's wearing, or, But in the Bhagavatam, I don't remember the quote, but it says that the spiritual master is emanating saffron particles of praying.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so in his presence, you're
That's
actually—
the story of the 4 Kumaras, I think. No, I'm not sure.
Yes,
Yeah, the saffron particles, yeah.
Right. So in the presence of the spiritual master, you're transported to the spiritual world. All your doubts are destroyed. And you have a shadow attachment of love of God.
Oh, absolutely. Mhm.
Right. So I mean, if I
So
could,
that's-
if I
that's
could,
right.
if I could please my spiritual master or any of the other Paramahamsas that are here on the planet by being with them 24/7, I would definitely do that. And instead of reading the books, I would hear the books from their lips. But I don't have an either or. So I always liked, I loved reading Srila Prabhupada's books. When the Nectar of Devotion came out, I had a toddler and a 3-year-old. So I had to spend sometimes hours at a park watching them swing. So I read the Nectar of Devotion 4 times. And it was just like everyone in the park reminded me of some passage in the book. When I'd see people talking, I'd think of the different descriptions in the book of different stages of different ecstasies of people sending messages. So, you know, it's just like, so I do love reading his books, but I don't feel that it's superior, although just like with my Gayatri mantra that I performed so poorly, one time we were, Srila Narayan Maharaj was saying how you need to personally serve the spiritual master.
No, the question was.
What was the question? Okay.
So I read. It's called Vishramba. Vishramba is that you have to serve the spiritual master in an intimate way. So and I read this. It was at the last page. It was the songbook compiled by Bhakti Pragyan Kesava Maharaj. And sorry about the time, and it's late for you. And so I said, how would I do this? I mean, my question was, so there was a morning walk, and the morning walk, it was about 200 devotees. And so I managed to, find a little space there to put the question. So how do I serve the spiritual master in an intimate way? Look, I mean, there's like multitude of devotees, and everybody's got their service, like very close. I was thinking physical proximity. So we have to understand. Well, that's one thing that Maharaj would point out. And so he looked at me and he said, am I not in your Gayatri mantras? Am I not in your mantras?
He said, I thought you said, am I not present?
Am I not present in your? So
I wasn't there.
Chanting the holy names, that's the highest service. But the spiritual master knows how to engage us. So when we're so passionate, so young, he told that to Tamal Krishna Maharaj. Oh, I had to put you to make temples and do all this stuff. But ultimately,
it's like Banasura, he had all these arms and he needed to stash them, right? He'd go to mountains.
Right.
I'm sorry, I'm not trying to compare Tamal Krishna Maharaj.
No, they're all examples.
Actually, that's Banasura is a great personality.
So, but to devotees who just begin, that Sambandha, that Vapu association is very important. That's what I said first.
I know.
And then later on, we might not have that for a long time. You know?
Many of us didn't. I didn't. I saw Prabhupada once, long before I joined the movement. I never had any association with him.
You saw Prabhupada when you were 16 years old, when George Harrison was giving his Krishna book to Prabhupada. Is that right?
Yeah.
That should have been recorded. I've never heard. Did Baba Trini, did you or Nirhari, did you ever hear of a recording where George Harrison was presenting Prabhupada with his?
No, but I heard it on here from.
No, well, thanks to.
And we'll hear it in Siddhanta's memories too.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's internal. We need to. The bodhisattvas that we developed, Maharaj would say, you have to serve the spiritual master internally, and
that's our challenge. That's every
and in separation.
Yeah,
and separation, because Vaishnavas, that's our path, that's our journey. They ask Maharaj, when you leave, what's going to happen? Say, oh, you're gonna have to cry bitter tears of separation, and when we cry that way. I have a great story, but actually Goparinda Paul told me this one. No, it was actually Dinabandhu, and we were commenting this Gopanyu, the devotee, and talking about tears. And when one cries like a baby, the mother then turns around and pays attention. If you don't say anything, mom is so busy, she will go around the room to do her things.
Mama!
Yes.
From the core of the heart, right?
Yes, we all have to enter the crying school.
Krishna!
Yeah.
Prabhupada,
No,
please.
Jadrani asked that too, that question, how, when would I get this? When am I gonna get this thing? When that's the only thing you want. Maharaj told him, when that's your only desire.
Yeah, I wrote a song once about tears, and I sang it for Srila Narayan Maharaj.
How does it go? Can you remember the words?
Sure, I just sang it to him without any instrument.
Can you sing it to us right now?
I'll try to remember. Tears of laughter, tears of pride, tears while meeting, tears she can't hide, tears of separation, tears from that pain. Her tears are falling just like the rain. When will she see? When will she see? When will she see his sweet smile again? When will she see him? When will she be with him? When will she see her sweet love again? Excuse me. Tears of laughter, tears of joy, tears while meeting with this boy. Tears of separation, tears from that pain. His tears are falling just like the rain. When will he see? When will he see? When will he see her sweet smile again? When will he see her? When will he be with her? When will he see his sweet love again? Tears keep falling, they keep calling, they keep calling each other's names. Tears keep falling, they keep calling, they keep calling each other's names. When will they see? When will they see? When will they see each other again? When will they see? When will they be? When will they be together again? Tears keep falling, they keep calling each other's names. Tears keep falling, they keep calling each other's names. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
This is from, but you know who this boy and this girl is Radha Krishna.
Of course, of course. What did Srila Narayan Maharaj say when you sang it?
He cried.
Really?
Yes.
He actually
that
asked
must
her
have made
to.
you really ecstatic.
Yeah, so
That made you cry too? Did you
that's
cry
the
too?
success of if you want to,
That was my most
Everyone was crying, right?
Well, it was just
yes.
it was just him and Panchali, our god sister, had come in the room with me. So it was
Well, the
just
two of us were there. I was there.
Oh, you were there. Yeah. Okay.
So, but he asked her actually to, can you write about this? And it's actually from Gita Govinda.
Oh, that was a different song.
Which is very.
He said, "I'd like you to write a song like this." So Krishna is falling at Radharani's feet, and he's placing his mukuts and his flute at her feet, and he's saying, "I'm sorry. I promise I will never do that again." So he had me write a song. And
but why? Because his crown would hurt her feet, or
no. He said, I'm sorry for, upsetting her and being with Chandravali, whatever.
Oh,
It's from Gita Govinda. So
I
he
see.
wanted me to
Yeah,
write a
one too.
song from
Wow.
Gita Govinda. And so I took the verse, what it is, oh, I forgot it now. There's a verse,
It's 10th canto Srimad Bhagavatam.
right?
Actually.
So, but there's a verse, and I sang it the tune, same tune as Gita Govinda, and I put the Sanskrit verse in, and then I put the line he'd written in, and it's like he said, that we are just like two, but with one soul. Krishna says.
That's from the Gita Govinda?
Yes.
Yeah. So our Gaudiya Vaishnavism is actually the ultimate, it culminates that Radharani is worship. And most of the great Vaishnavas, they're happier, and many of them, they're happier when Krishna is rendering service. There's Nidhuvan in Vrindavan, it's very secret.
I
very
visited there. Damodar Swami took me there. We wandered through there.
Yeah, and Maharaj told me that in that place, Krishna served Radharani 24, all night.
Say the
So
Kunj too.
Don't see it now because you go in there and it's a bunch of gnarly branches.
All the bushes are, they're like,
Yeah, they're really low and
low.
all the monkeys are everywhere.
Yes. So at
But
night that's locked. At night that's locked. And and so we said, now we're coming into some really high stuff and books but the Goswamis, but Prabhupada wanted us to read them. You know, in the purport of that song we sing
Which one?
about Gauranga. Gauranga Bolite Habe.
Oh,
That's
that,
a fantastic, oh my
that
God.
purport by
When
Srila
Prabhupada sings it,
Prabhupada.
and then he gives the purport, it's recorded. He talks about how to please Nityananda by calling on Gauranga Mahaprabhu. And if we please, so it's in this, the spiritual master, the six Goswamis, Nityananda Prabhu, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and then the pastimes of Radha Krishna will be revealed in a lot better than if we just try to jump and go into. Prabhupada said, don't, try to read the 10th canto first. Nevertheless, I mean, he did a summary study of it, and in the Harmonist that was reprinted again, there was an article by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur that he says, yes, there is all these bogus interpretations and they all want to talk about Rasa Lila and like that, and that's it's offensive and they will fall down because of that, because they won't understand it. They will judge it with their mundane mind. But there is a real necessity of a pure commentary on it. So I think he was like, that's what Prabhupada took as instruction to, present the Krishna book really quite, right away. And
Right.
And so
And it says the way to conquer lust, material lust, is to read the 10th canto. Srila Prabhupada says that.
Always, but it's like a doctor. It's just like a good doctor will see so many patients, and there's all these levels of disease, and so he will recommend different things for different people, and he knows, he's the judge of how to what place this soul is. I mean, what can they take, and what they're ready to assimilate.
Papa gave the example that if the doctor gives too much of a dose, he can kill the patient, and if he doesn't give enough, he can have a relapse and go back.
Yeah, my uncle was a professor of medicine. Oh, it's very late.
It's after 10 o'clock for me.
Oh, yeah.
And I need to finish a round or two. Nanda Patni, do you have any closing words? Nanda Patni is a very good listener. She's sitting very quietly.
Yes.
No, I'm listening. I'm not sure that I have closing words per se.
Is everyone else gone?
Krishna Chandra entered into Samadhi.
Yes. So I just like to recline a little bit after 9:30.
That's okay.
Still listening.
This is really late
So-
for you. It's like one of the reasons I'm not in the classes sometimes is the classes start at 1 p.m. our time, and I'm in the middle of business conferences on the phone or making lunch or, you know.
And I'm going, where is everybody? But I understand, you know, I have to just accept. I'm grateful.
I have a mundane question. The name of the devotee in Pakistan, what is her
That's
name?
not a mundane. How is that a mundane question?
Oh.
She's a major preacher.
No. I mean,
Yeah.
my question
Yes.
is because I want to tell her what town my daughter-in-law lives in.
Oh, good. Yeah, no, on Facebook, her name is Nitya, Nitya. And her family name is Maheshwari, Maheshwary. Nitya Maheshwari. She just took initiation from Bhakti Raghava Swami, and so her initiated name is Nitya Leela Devi Dasi.
Chalila.
Yeah.
And how can I find her on Facebook?
By
By Nitya Maheshwari?
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you
Yes.
want Nirhari, I can go. I mean, for either of you, I could just
tomorrow,
go.
he can go on. You can go on Messenger.
I can find her page and I'll send it to you right now. Is that okay?
Okay, that's great.
Let him rest.
Anyway, we actually managed to do this without being blessed by Acyutananda. He didn't come for whatever reason. I should check my email to find out what he had. Maybe he explained to me that he wasn't going to come. And we also didn't have Siddhanta, but we managed to pull it off. So Nanda Patni had a lot of great realizations.
Thank
And
you, Nanda
you know, when
Patni.
it's a smaller group like
Thank you,
this,
Nanda Patni.
Krishna Chandra, it seems it lends itself to, like, Sikarani was more active tonight too, because there's less of us.
Yeah, I was going to say before we go, Bhavatrini and Rehari, I had the good fortune of being involved in playing instruments with Mangala on that album, Golden
Oh,
Moon.
yeah, that's right. You're on that
Yeah.
album with Mangala
Yeah,
and
years ago. It's such a pretty album.
It's a beautiful album.
Yeah.
What
I know.
album are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about.
It's called Golden Moon, is it?
Yeah, Golden Moon. We made it in, I think, 1986 in Badger. Yeah,
With
funnily
who?
enough.
Who are the main
Chiranjeev's first wife, Mangala, and she's since actually passed away, and her children are in Hawaii. Bhavatrini and Nrihari knows the children. I was saying, Bhavatrini, how the children were almost in diapers when I first met them. So it goes back a long way. But I know you're involved in creating songs and music, so I thought you might like to know that.
Right, I love that.
Yeah.
And
That's
also
wonderful.
Nilachala was on it also. And Pushpanjali, yeah.
It was
I
just
think
called
actually-
Golden Moon. That's all.
Golden Moon.
Yeah, I think even Ananga Manjari might have been in the studio one day. I'm not quite sure.
I believe it was on tape, in small cassette.
It was
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
pre-CDs.
86.
Yes.
86,
Yeah.
It's 1986.
Yeah.
I'll ask Chini, that's her nickname, Chandrakanta,
Yes.
and
Mhm.
to see if they have
They probably have
Digitized it. Somebody sent me an MP3 of it in recent times, because I've got one little cassette of Mangala's of mine, before we did the recording. And I thought, what tapes are like? You're absolutely in trepidation to put them in the machine.
Because they'll read them.
In case, that you lose it. So there's a devotee here who managed to have the MP3s. You can't really find it on the web. It's very difficult to access that particular album. Yeah. Anyway, and Chinny is very, very like her mother in singing.
Yes.
She's
Yeah,
very
she
like-
wrote. Mangala wrote an amazing. She transcribed all the songs in English, all the great Vaishnava. So you have a book of all the.
Same melody, and
Yeah.
song starts with
meter.
the Sanskrit, Bengali, or Hindi verse, and then they do English to the same melody, and she has all her children on it. And beautifully done.
So
But-
our you know, when the Sangha gets together, when we go to Gorsun, their temple, there's 1 hour of singing.
Yeah, on
and,
Ekadasi,
chanting
they have a 24-hour
all the great Vaishnava
program.
songs. So we start with Guru, Nityananda, Gauranga, and then Radha Krishna.
And they sing all the songs from her book.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. And I know her son Gauranga has a beautiful singing voice.
Oh yes, he was raised. I mean, he was born in Mayapur, so he's I would say tricultural, or he's pretty much bicultural, because he didn't have, thank God, no exposure to this Western, influence, and so and then he studied. He went back as a teenager to study there, so he's very fluent in Bengali and Hindi, and he has great. His kirtans are wow, amazing.
And he's paralyzed.
Yeah, I know.
Lying down and like that.
Yeah,
So,
I know.
yes, with Mangala, we had a project, and it never really.
We were going to
she got so
translate her
ill.
book into Spanish, and then take all the music for what they done in English, and add maybe.
Well, no, that was one thing, but what she
I'm
wanted
going to make one of you
Yeah,
others a co-host so I can go and finish
Oh
around.
no, we should go.
I need to go too, but we're rambling. Anyway,
We'll see you all on Monday, I hope.
We'll see you again.
Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo.
Hari Hari Bol.
Hari Hari Bol.